So my new V-pulley for the idler, for the clutch release or the tension mechanism, it came in, and I went ahead and got me a belt just from the local tractor supply store. I was getting pretty excited, wanted to go ahead and throw this guy on, make sure that these wheels are going to turn. When I realized the routing of the belt had to go around this plastic fan, then it goes through this flat pulley right here, and then the V pulley goes right here where my finger's at, and then it turns sideways and goes underneath, and it had to go around the PTO and the engine pulley. And the old one was stretched out enough to where everything kind of slid out and all the other parts were worn out, so taking it off was pretty easy. But now that everything's all brand new, I realized I was going to have a hard time. So I knew I had to drop the PTO. So I went ahead, and I did not do that, by the way. That was like that when I bought it. But anyway, I knew I had to drop the PTO. And it looks like it has places, let's see if I can find where that guy is, like these tabs right here, that you can put a puller, and then underneath you put your puller, and you just kind of slide the whole thing out. Well, I didn't have those, so I used a chisel, and unfortunately, by prying between here and the drive pulley, I bent it up pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and anti-seize the inside of the shaft here and the keyway, and taking it off the next time is going to be a whole lot easier, and I'll just be better off for it. But anyway, that's where we're at tonight. We're going to go ahead and put this all back together, and hopefully we can start this bad boy up and get it running. Hopefully I can see some wheels turning on it. As far as taking that PTO off, let's see, what size was this? 16 millimeter. It's a single bolt that goes up there. It sandwiches both the PTO and the drive pulley there. And let's see, I'll show you a picture of it real quick. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty simple to work on unless it's all rusted up and seized, and then you're going to be playing a heck of a time. I'd have to imagine, even if I got this from the John Deere dealership, that it wouldn't cost me too much, as it doesn't have any bearings or anything in it. But I don't know, looks could always be deceiving. So far they've been pretty reasonable. Everything I've bought has either been like 10 or 15 bucks. But on top of speaking of things that we've ordered, I got me a brand new gas cap. And I think this one was like 15 bucks as well. But yeah, no more water getting in there. Got a little more progress done here on the John Deere 165 Hydro. Got the hood back on, I put the cowls on, these little metal scoops, kind of wiped everything down. I played around some more with that drive belt, and by the time I got it in, lawnmower runs, it stops, it does all that great stuff, but this belt was just flying all over the place. Now, as you can see here, there's marks from the original belt there, and then right there on the steering shaft. And I mean, I know I bent up that pulley, and that thing was just kind of flying all over the place. So I went ahead and I ordered a new pulley, and this is the part number for that guy. Let's see, that's an AM101770. And while I was there, I went ahead and ordered a belt, a factory John Deere belt, and honestly the price difference was about 6 or 7 bucks more than the one I got over at Tractor Supply. But that's a M84075. They gave me two different options of belts, and I felt like the 79 incher that I picked up over at Tractor Supply, which is that guy right there, I felt like maybe it was a little too loose. That's why I was flying around that, and there was a giant dent in the drive pulley. So I ordered a 78.5, and it pretty much lines up with the original one that I took out. I don't know if this is an OE or not. It's pretty old. It could possibly be I did read something about there being 2 different options of belts, and there was whenever I went to the dealership, and I went with the shortest one. And that really kind of bit me because it is a tight fit under here. So since I had to put that pulley on, I went ahead and took off the PTO, dropped the pulley, and I ended up still having to roll this belt onto the pulley to get the seat. On the Tractor Supply, that blue belt, I was able to put the belt around the pulley and just kind of slide the whole unit in, and that wasn't much of an option for this one. This is a much tougher belt. We're going to see how well it wears here, but I wanted to go ahead and share with you the routing of the belt, because by the time I got done taking this off, and then a couple months later I went to try to put it back on, I couldn't really remember. So this belt right here, when it goes through the tensioners, you want to keep this is on the right hand side of the pulley, of the drive pulley. So just keep everything that goes on top on the right. So it goes on top of the idler, then it goes underneath the flat, and then it goes around the hydraulic pump, then it goes back around to the left hand side of the drive pump. So if you keep that in mind, you won't go wrong. Like I said, I had this thing running and driving with the parts that I had already had on it, but I wanted to go ahead and take it all apart, mainly because I wanted to work on this guy right here, and that's your neutral switch that you're supposed to be able to engage. There's going to be a knob kind of like right here. You turn it and it's supposed to push this little indent in. I unscrewed that. I tried to play with the pin here a little bit. It is seized up pretty tight. I didn't have good luck with it. I think you would have to split the cases of the hydraulic pump and the transaxle to get it apart, and I had a parts diagram from John Deere, and it just shows this thing being just a pin, and that just slides in and out. But unfortunately, it's seized up, and I don't want to cause any harm. It works. I just have to keep in mind that, you know, this thing's only going to go back and forth when the motor's running. So the drive pulley's back on, the belt's back on. I put all the guards back on whenever I was putting all the air duct back on the engine. You can do this belt without taking, you know, the fenders off and all that good stuff. I just wanted to show you this. I'm going to go ahead and put this cross brace back on that holds the gas tank, and I'm going to put it all back together, and then we're going to fire it up. I got the battery on charge again. This thing is pretty trash, but I mean it'll start at once. That's basically what it does. So I don't think I'm going to buy a battery until next summer. So in the meantime, I'm hoping to get like maybe one mow out of this guy, and I'll try to get that up as soon as I can. But I'm just going to go ahead and put all this stuff back on, and we're going to fire it up and test it out. Another thing about putting this belt on is I did have to remove this link right here. And what it does is it's connected to the clutch / brake pedal that automatically pushes this guy back into neutral whenever you want to come to a complete stop. So it has to go, the belt has to go between this little arm right here, and I'm trying to get a good view of it, but I mean it's just, there's a lot going on down here, but you're just going to take my word for it. But this belt's got to go on this side, and this side of the belt's got to go on that side. So in order to get it on there, and since it wraps underneath this link, you have to go ahead and take it off. Now they say you just have to take this cotter pin out and this pin, but what I've been having to do is take off the bolts. Let's see if I can find them here. This guy right here and these two. I've been having to take those off to put the belt on. So I've gotten pretty familiar with this guy. Hopefully I'm never going to have to work on it again. I don't know. We're going to see how well this thing works out. This thing better perform some friggin' miracles in the way of mowing as compared to my John Deere 111, which, you know, as you guys saw in, a couple videos ago, I basically just changed a fuel pump and did some cosmetic things. So we're gonna see how well this guy does. Another thing I am gonna have to work on is this guy, the oil filter. The places where people were like probing with wires and stuff like that, where I couldn't get electrical tape, I just went ahead and just put some red silicone on, and I did that there, and then I did it right there because it looked like someone was stripping these wires, maybe to put some test leads on. I'm not exactly sure. But another thing I wanted to point out is after I went ahead and put everything back on, I realized that I didn't have a spot to keep the engine from turning whenever I was taking off that bolt that was holding on the PTO and the final drive. With this cover off, all you have to do is kind of just wedge something in there in the flywheel, and it'll keep it from moving. But with everything covered up, I was able to fit a screwdriver down here in the corner there next to the starter to keep the engine from turning, so I could go ahead and loosen and tighten those bolts as necessary. One more thing I wanted to share with you guys is that I was having a tough time trying to figure out what spark plug was supposed to go in this guy. I was afraid that with all the other weird stuff that had been going on with this thing, that maybe someone had put in just whatever spark plug they had laying around. I'm not sure if that's the right one or not for a Champion. It was looking a little bit dirty. It doesn't look wore out at all, just dirty. But I decided that I'd go ahead and pick me up an NGK. It's what they had over at the John Deere dealership. It was actually the only part that they had in stock. All these other parts is I had to order and then wait a couple days for them to come in. It was free shipping, but you still just had to wait. I mean, this thing has been sitting in my garage for way too long now. But that's the spark plug that it recommends from the dealership. So that's what I went with. And honestly, their prices weren't all that different than if I bought it somewhere else or online or anything like that. About the only thing that I bought aftermarket that actually turned out to work okay was this fuel pump. So, you know, buyer beware, I guess. But